are a guest joining us to Journal Club for the first time. Journal Club is a program under AIDA Africa, which exists for the purpose of peer-to-peer mentorship in research. My name is Joyce Wangare. I am the lead mentor at Journal Club. Journal Club is a space where we grow, laugh, and learn together. Anything and all about research. Today we have a really amazing speaker who is not new to Journal Club. She has been here before. She delivered a very powerful webinar last time on cover letter writing, and her name is Dr. Barbara Burmen. We are so honored to have you, Daktari, because from our last session, a lot of members were empowered in how to deliver a really good pitch ahead of the interview. Remember, when you do cover letter writing or CV writing, you are bidding a pitch. You are asking somebody to let you through the door so that you can show yourself and be called for an interview. So today's session is not on cover letter writing, but it's a continuation from last time. Today we are going to learn about the curriculum vitae. Some of you know that that is a Latin word. You might be wondering what exactly does curriculum vitae actually stand for. And we will learn all about CV writing. Dr. Barbara Burmen, if you would like to share your slides, let me know so that we can make you co-host. Otherwise, meanwhile, I would, yes.
Okay. Sorry, please go ahead. I'd like to share the slides.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, we will have you be a co-host so that you can share slides. And I see that we are introducing ourselves. We are coming from all different universities. So far, I can see people are saying your name, your institution, field of study, and your expectations for today's webinar. We have Jackie Ojiambo, thank you for being here. Mark Mwendwa, Maseno University, wow, that's amazing. Andrew Kasiti, Technical University of Kenya, MSc Applied Parasitology. I would love to learn more with regards to an effective eye-catching CV writing. Risi Makoha from Chinoy University of Technology. Wow, I wonder what country that is in. That's amazing. MSc Fellow in Genomics. Thank you so much, Risi. You would like to learn more about new and effective techniques for CV writing. Isaac is in economics. Jackie is a lecturer at Raff University of Literature, lecturer of literature. Needs to upgrade my CV. Glad to be here. Thank you, Jackie. Colin Swashira is a student at Southeastern Kenya University, Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Thank you so much. And I think at this time, I will invite Daktari to proceed. Karibu, Daktari.
Thank you so much, Joyce, and thank you for the kind introduction. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are. Will you also allow us to see you, or today it's only the voice?
You will see me maybe at the end of the session, at the end of the...
That's all right, no problem.
Yeah. I'm glad to be able to have time for to speak to you about writing the curriculum vitae, which I've been learning and I'm still learning for the past number of years. The focus of this talk is on the content. I know there are so many formats and do's and don'ts, and sort of everybody has their rules, but we'll try and talk about the content. We'll try and go through some few things, and then hopefully we can have enough time for Q&A. So I'm not sure how many people are back in the last meeting. We'll do a very short recap of the cover letter because sort of gives you sort of a background to how the resume will go. I'll just briefly refer to the UN competency framework. I think you could get the links from the previous slide. Types of CV, these are not really types of CVs. I am not really sure because there are CVs, there's a CV at the end. So these are just different ways in which you could write your professional profile, like in a bio sketch, in a resume or a CV. We'll introduce the academic CV, then do the short resume and be able to look at one sample or two samples and have time for Q&A. So these are the paragraphs of the cover letter. The intro of where you go to hear about the job application, your education and skills that fit the advert, your experiences, your personal attributes, detailing them as exemplified in the UN competency framework, endorsements and enclosures and undertaking. I'll share a sample after this presentation, which was also shared in the previous presentation, but you can have it also at this presentation for those who are not there. So from this blog post, they say the resume is a sort of a 1 or 2 page CV or a sort of a brief CV, while your curriculum vitae is sort of the long one, which is usually preferable for academic purposes. From mentors, from mentees, from networking, from friends, they keep telling you, you're looking for a job now. This is not an academic CV. You need to tell the employer what exactly they need to hear. So somebody told me they don't have time for long CVs. They don't have time for 20 pages or something. That is for, depending on the job. I'm saying this very carefully. Yeah. But for academic positions, they would want to know as much as possible. And those are the ones that are quite long. The bio is could be a 1 paragraph, like an essay talking about your most important highlights, commonly used for NIH applications, or people ask you to send it as a summary of some applications. So this is my own list of the components of the CV. I think I learned this from different places. Your personal details. Just key to mention on personal details is whenever you put contact phone numbers, please add a phone number of somebody you trust as an additional number. Don't put 3 or 4 of your own numbers. In the unfortunate event you lose your phone, chances are you lose both numbers. But in the event of somebody else, the number of somebody else on that resume, or in the event you're unreachable for whatever reason, somebody else who you trust should be able to be reachable. Your educational qualifications, your work experiences, professional development courses, skills, community and other engagements, and your referees. So this is the academic CV template. It's very long. I'll reshare. The African Academy of Sciences was kind enough to share to allow me to use a sample template that they use for some applications. So you have your personal details, your educational background. The personal details are very short in this format. Your educational background, they want such specific details, including the people who sat in the committee that listened to you presenting your PhD and approved it. Your defense, so through your defense PhD presentation. Your honors and awards, this is very important. Please make the opportunity to apply for as many things as you can. Your research experience, teaching experience, other work experience that may not fall in the two, publications, patents, presentations and invited lectures, professional development training, affiliations, service, professional service, community engagement, languages, others. I will share the template. The beauty about the template is that each of those sections explains in details what should be in that section, and also gives a template of how exactly you should write what should be in that section. So the focus today will be a little bit on this short CV template, the resume. There's a link to some article which is shared at the end of this presentation, which talks about most of these things. So it talks about your professional summary, what is at the top there, what some people write as a career profile, job titles, professional competencies. Then it goes into the descriptions of your past successes, also like the bullet points in your CV, and then the chronological details of that. So we'll go through a few. So your summary is a list of about 12 phrases that summarizes your ambitions, your background and talents. It begins with that line with 3 or 4 job titles you want most. 3 or 4 job titles you want most includes the jobs that you envision yourself having, not just what you have right now. So if you are maybe a lab technologist and you envision yourself being something at a more advanced level and you're on your way being there, that should be included in those 2, 3, or 4 job titles. So they say, identify the title you want next. Recruiters and HR people begin seeing you in that role and helps give a context of your diverse work history. This is an example of what somebody wrote, VP marketing, director marketing, brand marketing. For mine, I had a list. I think I didn't put medical doctor because maybe I'm not really interested in being seen in that light right now. I'm very proud of my clinical background and I would be willing to go back and do that, nothing against that. So I put in a public health specialist, I put in an editor, I put in a consultant, and for my personal reasons, I put in mentor. Your competencies, what skills, what are you competent at? And it should be level appropriate. You know, somebody who's very senior should be talking about strategic management and not time management or presentation. So this person has talked about software architecture, engineer recruiting, technology innovation. For research, maybe we are talking about coordination, you're talking about advanced analysis, data management, if you want to put in things like GIS, machine learning, and things like that, depending on your role. So description of your past successes. So your achievements or attributes, like, you know, President's Club, top producing saleswoman, exceeds quota, consultative sellings expert. This was an example more around business. So your bullets, when I first read this article, I think we had a laugh with a number of colleagues because I asked how many bullet points do you have in your CV? And somebody said, I think I have 150. This format says 30 to 40 bullet points across all your career roles. I must mention that this should not restrict you to say, I will not write 50, I will not write 70. But when you think through having to put 30 to 40, you will narrow down to a lot of the fluff in your CV to exactly what matches the job career. So you say your most recent job is 8 bullets, next job 8, next 2 jobs 4, everything else just 10. So if there are 5 jobs there, they should get 2 bullet points each. And what is not mentioned here is, they were saying 10 years, 1 page, 10 years career, 1 page, 20 years career, 2 pages, maximum 3. And said if you could not put that into 2 or 3 pages, you really need to rethink. So if you worked at the same job, I know some people get to university and live where they were training and go and work in the same place for 15 years. Chances are they worked in different roles. So you split the bullets across the roles. For this specific bullet, this specific issue, I opted to try and do 8 bullets per job max, and I actually succeeded at that. So they say each bullet should be a success verb and a number. I would prefer you work on numbers first and move to the success verb slowly because numbers are easier. So the ideal is 40 bullets, 100% of them have quantifiable achievements. So if I say I coordinated a study, I should say the number of people recruited, the staff team I had. If I want to add the budget of the study, if I want the geographical spread, I should be able to put in numbers something to show that, this was the scope of the study. So that somebody can visualize it and see that I coordinated a large study or a small study, a complex study or a simple study. At minimum, try and have 50% of your bullets quantified. So maybe when you put 8 bullets in one job, I think we should at least have numbers. There are some bullets, things that cannot be quantified. So they may fall somewhere in between where you cannot say what they are. So these are the success verbs which are shared. I've shared also another link to some other article which calls them power verbs. You achieved this, you added, you awarded something, you changed this, you decreased maybe losses, you maximized, you minimized, and then after that you add something quantifiable. The slides will be shared, so you will have the access to the verbs. Like this is very business oriented. Increase new customer visits by 17% without an increase in the budget. Decrease the bill by 42% through this. So if you read this versus somebody who tells you, my job was in customer care or in budgeting, your hiring manager would be more interested in speaking to this person who is quantified this, and the person will want to speak to the specific, to know how exactly this person did it. So doing a sample CV is a little bit challenging as opposed to a sample cover letter. I graciously asked 2 people to share their CVs, which we've worked on recently together, very informally. So I've taken extracts from the advert. Anyone who asks me to look through something, I say, where is the advert first? And so this is a sample application we look at. We'll look through the CV. I'll focus mainly on keywords, and we'll look through how this person addressed those requirements. So they wanted a university degree in, you see the number of lists, name and 2 years of experience, qualifications in statistics, project management, and M&D. So this is the cover letter, the second paragraph, where the person talks about the education and skills. This person had a bachelor's degree, a merit. In Kenya, this will be first-class honors. I think I've heard of people who say, you know, downplay your achievements. Unfortunately, nobody is going to blow your trumpet for you. And we are in a competition. Whatever we are applying for, we are in a competition. So if you need to mention that you had your first-class honors, you had a second-class upper, feel free to say it. And you don't feel like mentioning it, it's all right. If they wanted the bachelor's only and you have a bachelor's, you write you have a bachelor's. Why I highlighted English and the other language, they had talked about fluency in local languages. I think it's something people overlook. If they wanted somebody who speaks a local language and you don't, and one person does, they may decide to, you know, be more interested in the other person. You can see the person is trained on research methods, M&D, project management, research writing, and statistical methods. And the person has skills in data analysis, has drafted reports, and belongs to an association. So it's important to belong to some associations because they add some value to your CV. So we'll continue looking at the PD. So we went through the PD together, and I highlighted things that I thought were important to highlight in her CV. So they wanted people who had worked on cross-border trade within Zambia and Southern Africa, worked within monitoring and evaluation, writing and communication skills, relationships with government authorities, experience in delivering UN delivering as one process. The reason I highlighted this is because this person is working in such an organization. If you don't, it doesn't mean you should not apply for the job. And project development, including engagement with traditional donors. So this is what I was speaking about: fluency in English, fluency, working knowledge of other languages spoken in Zambia. So if you look at this bullet, bilateral program, this was somewhere where we had talked about being conversant with issues of the UN. So we still have the same bullet here: cross-border trade, work plans, implementation, reporting, monitoring and evaluation, tracking, coordinating, reporting, and project expenditure. And the issue of expenditure was reiterated several times in the advert. Organizing workshops, seminars, and conferences, preparing proposals, concept notes, and other strategy papers, presentations, duty travel. So for this, we talked about field visits. So these were the summary of the bullets I pulled out. I think you can appreciate that if we get to the second one. Adverts are not written in the order in which you plan to write your cover letter or your CV. Sometimes everything is sort of jumbled up because I think this one had experience and it had responsibilities, and then it had it had a whole intro section, then it had objectives. So it doesn't really go the same way. So these were the bullets I highlighted, like 8 bullets. And we discussed about safe cross-border trade during COVID-19. And how this person met this specific criteria was they had been working with farmers at the borders in her previous job, but recently had undergone training for COVID-19 in the workplace. So this is the CV of this person. I've just highlighted a few things. So we could see in this is her first job, support project implementation, including preparing and submitting work plans, annual budgets, worth. This is the budget in US dollars and the currency conversion rate, and kept a financial tracking and reconciliations of all resources. The next section is she talked about an activity. This activity led to the development of a report to inform revision of this work plan in the country. So she talked about what she did in that activity, which was research assistance, and what was the outcome of that activity. So this is sort of a quantifiable and also shows a success. So this is her second role on the same CV. Supported project volunteers in community mobilization for over 3,000 priority populations, adolescent girls, mobile populations, discordant couples. So you can see this is a very quantified achievement. Not only has she said the priority population, but she's given the breakdown. The next section, she talks about M&D and tracking of resources, as well as drafting of reports. Then conducted monthly data collection and cleaning, entry verifications of a data set of an average of 1,000 clients. So whenever you manage any data set, even your PhD data, your master's data, think how many observations does it have? Is it a complex data set? Does it have a relation or section or things like that? So she managed data sets in this THIS2. Then she prepared reports to inform project indicators and things like that. So that's her second role. In the third role, I just highlighted one, visited at least 30 households per day, identified at least 2 deaths of women in reproductive age per 100 households that was not reported, leading to adjustment of maternal mortality rate. So not only is it quantified, but it shows what was the outcome of that, which led to some adjustment of some statistics. Role 4, she facilitated consultative meetings. I think there was a requirement for being able to conduct seminars, trainings, and workshops. The register of societies in which provinces from over 30 participants. Note taking and transcribing and analyzing of qualitative and quantitative data. I think there are field reports here also. In the next role, record and review number of antenatal visits of pregnant women by telling and recording. So she talks about data management here. This whole role is about, it's role 6, and it's one of the first things she did when she came from college. So she talks about data entry into AP-Info, creating a database in Excel, and analyzing the data, which is a skill that is required for the role. So we'll move to the sample application 2. For this, we'll not go into so much because I was hoping to have more time we could discuss. These are the qualifications for the job. Bachelor's degree, 4 years experience in managing large cohorts. Provide mentorship and develop teams, report writing, communication, interpersonal skills, and good computer usage. So this is the excerpt from the second paragraph of the cover letter. The person mentions they have a bachelor's degree. They have a diploma in social work and community development. The reason this was put here is, sorry, the bachelor's degree is community development. The person has a bachelor's degree in sociology. So if you have another qualification that may improve your chances of getting the job, please feel free to put it, like the diploma, even if it wasn't required. And it's conversant with the use of MS Office and report writing skills. So these are the responsibilities. There were so many and they were so mixed up. There was enrollment, service provision, linkage to care, working with community advisory boards, working with work plans, budgets, cash disbursements, taking care of resources, progress reports, collation and analysis of data for decision making, quality improvement, and documentation and sharing of successes. There's no data collection here, mentorship, public-private partnerships, abstracts, posters, and conference presentations, participate in sub-county meetings. The reasons the other bullets are not highlighted is some of them are sort of repetitive. So this is the summary I came up with, which I have gone through. And this is what we used to draft the cover letter and the CV. So this is the cover letter from paragraph 3, we've already seen paragraph 1. The number of years experience is there. They talked about how many, they talked about experience in this work. They said working with cohorts. So the person mentioned the person has worked with a cohort, people living with HIV. Talked about the teams that they've worked with, who required supervision, coordination, report preparation, presentation, and the roles required strict confidentiality. So within the jobs this person has worked in, the duties have included enrollment, data management, tracking and retention, and linkage to various services within and outside health facilities. He developed work plans and budgeting for quarterly activities and managed cash flows. He was the custodian of project supplies. This person also prepared weekly reports, analyzed data, and made presentations at various forums, and participated in development of SOPs, guidance, and training tools to be used within the different roles. So we will not have excerpts from that CV. I picked these tips from some experienced people we spoke with recently. One person said she keeps updating her CV always and keeps a very long CV, 5, 10, 20 pages with everything. And whenever somebody says, give me 2 pages or 3 pages, she just takes that one and trims it out to 2 pages. The other person who was on this activity said, when she comes from a conference, she updates the CV and she emails it to herself, and so she can always have an updated version. I must admit, when I was doing the African Academy of Sciences long CV template, I did it over a few days. I was applying to be part of the academy, and I had to think, many years ago in medical school, I was in a particular hospital in Sweden for 6 weeks, and actually had to think what was the name of the hospital because it was so long ago. One thing I know is you will get better as you write several CVs, not one. Each time you improve, you keep on improving, and you have people look at it and they critique you. You will get better with time. It's not you won't do it once. I saw this quote actually yesterday. It was quite interesting from Grace Ijemazo, Opportunity Desk. If you go to Opportunity Desk, you'll get so many different opportunities for all sorts of fields. Please be checking there. She said there's only a 1% chance that you'll get that opportunity if you apply, but 100% chances that you won't if you don't. So the odds are in your favor. So you'd better take your 1 chance or 0 if you don't apply. These quotes are from the articles I'll share. We say we look back on our life as a thing of broken pieces because of our mistakes and failures are always the first to strike us and outweigh our imagination, what we have accomplished and attained. Cross-check your accomplishments against your core competencies. If you claim research is a core competency, be sure to list several research-oriented achievements on your resume. Do the same for all other core competencies. If your resume is full of hard-hitting accomplishments, you'll shorten your job search considerably. Doors will be open more easily. You'll be interviewed more often. Your interviews will go much smoother, and you will be hired much sooner. I should mention one of the sample CVs we wrote. Just the person go to the first stage of the interview process. Maybe we will inform you what happens at the second or the third stage. I always say I don't guarantee you will do this and get the job the first time. There's no guarantee, but you will get some other job at some point. The same happened with this person. We have worked on something and that didn't work out, but much later she used another application years ago. This is somebody I've known for a while, and she used it to get to where she is currently. So I want to acknowledge Ada and African Academy of Sciences for kindly sharing the CV. And my mentors, mentees, friends, and the persons who shared their CVs. As an addendum, we may speak about this briefly, but for now, over to you, Joyce, and I would want to hear from you now. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Daktari. I have learned a lot, as always, and I lost my chat at some point, but I see we have a number of questions. Steve says it's really difficult quantifying achievements in some professional fields as compared to customer or consumer satisfactory careers, say business. For instance, in a health profession, most achievements could be qualitative, not quantitative. Mentioning the number of patients you've treated or managed on your CV would be portrayed as boastful, is what Steve thinks. And he says your CV will always have the successful projects or deliberations or quality improvement implementations, say if you're working in a healthcare environment, or collaborations that were successfully published. That is if it's a research. So he would like some highlights. Those are Steve's point of view. This idea about what about the more qualitative achievements that are not really quantifiable? How do you feature those? It's not about numbers, but really you've had impact in people's lives. Those are things that are more what people used to call soft, but not anymore. They're no longer called soft. They are core competencies and they're more qualitative. So that's the question from Steve. And then Ivy is asking, I'm a recent graduate with no professional experience yet. Is it okay to include volunteer experience in my CV, or what should I include in this case? That's a very common question. The idea that you don't have professional experience and yet a job is asking for maybe 3 or 4. And if you don't have any, do you put volunteer? Do you actually use the word volunteer in your CV, or do you just write all the different ways you've been of service without using even the word volunteer? What's your take on that, Daktari?
Sorry, I think I missed the second part of the first question. You talked about doctors writing their qualifications, and then the second thing you mentioned in the first question.
Right, yeah, well, Steve had a long point of view. Maybe, Steve, if you're here, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question directly? Steve's question is on the chat. Yeah,
I cannot see
yeah. Oh, you cannot see the chat. That's all right. Steve, are you still here? Steve?
Or I could answer the chat meanwhile.
Yeah, let me send him a prompt to unmute if he's able to. But basically, it was about qualitative versus quantitative achievements, and this idea that some fields are not too consumer driven, like say research, or healthcare in some aspects. So, do you have to say numbers and those things, or does that look like you're being boastful? If I got the question, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I got that. So let's start with doctors' achievements. I have found an article, and I don't think I put it on the presentation, but I can look for it. When you are working as a doctor, one is you could mention the clinic size, the number of patients you are seeing. Like I worked in a managed care organization, and then unfortunately I could not find out how many people who were managing, but I know we managed maybe over 1,000, a database of over 1,000 patients who are family members. The other thing that I did in the clinic was in the absence of the acting manager, my manager would be asked to act as manager on a rotational basis. So you could add that you're able to act in a managerial position. Other than that, because this is private, in a private facility, you may have to do a lot of paperwork, filling insurance forms and back and forth, and you may be able to start saving revenues and things like that. So I'll find the link, I'll share it. Unfortunately, there is nothing called boastful. This is a competition. So you hide your achievements. Unfortunately, what the employer gets to see is what you send only. You may be a very good doctor, you may be a very good researcher, you may be a very good statistician. You've not put the skills you have, or the, if I'm a statistician, I'm talking about the complexities and the sizes of databases I normally manage. And somebody else is just saying, I have the skill. The person hiring you is more interested in knowing about this person who can quantify what they're talking about. So unfortunately, you have to blow your own trumpet. We have been told to be modest. We have been told even to stop calling ourselves doctor after going to medical school for 6 years and crying through the 6 years. Somebody says, please stop calling yourself doctor. Like, but I worked for it and I achieved it. So please, if you did it and it is true, it is not boastful, you are writing a truth on your application, You write it down there, and if something is true, you can stand up and explain. I mean, you can explain it when you're asked in the interview, or if you're asked at some point, why is this on your CV? You can say, this is what exactly happened, and you can explain it. And that will be one way of making you shine when it comes to these competitions. So the issue with the soft skills, maybe before we go to soft skills, is you talk about quantifying some specific achievements. I was giving an example. I have served as a study coordinator, and the example I like using is I mentioned I coordinated a study over a period of almost 3 years. We had a team of 23 staff working in 15 different health facilities, spread over, now their counties, 4 districts at that time, yeah, 4 different counties. And we recruited over 1,000 patients, collected over 3,000 samples. And we have publications from this study. Now look at that description and look at somebody who says I'm a study coordinator. I have 3 years experience in coordinating studies. So compare the two. I would want to know your thoughts also, any of you. Who would you be more interested in hiring if you are the hiring manager? So you have to think through what exactly do we need to say through each specific role. The CV I was showing looks something easy to do, but I know this person personally, and I asked her, you manage budgets? Yeah, because coincidentally, some of these things I know in informal settings when we're talking about something else, and I say, you manage the budget? Yeah. How big was the budget? Oh, it was this number of dollars. Please add it in the CV. Yeah. At your level, we need to know what kind of budget you're managing. And that was an additional. I know people who are in finance, it may not be very useful that they're managing a budget because that's their role. Yeah, but when in other fields, managing budgets is an additional thing. So when we move to soft skills, if you mentored people, I mentored so many people over a number of years as part of my regular job, and others who are not part of my job. And I got awards for that. The reason being is, how many people did you mentor? What did you do for them? And what was the outcome? That is quantifiable. It may sound very vague, but if I say I mentored 5 people into training courses and they all got the scholarships and went for the training courses abroad, that is a quantifiable achievement. And we are talking about everything is true, right? You're not writing false things to get into a CV and into a job and start getting confused about, answering questions. So you have to think through everything you've done. Recently, we did a systematic review, and I was thinking through the things we had done recently. And to quantify that, I was saying I looked through 3,000 literature searches, and I came up with this from that. This is the outcome of doing that literature search. I mentioned the exact number of documents we had to look through. We did a sort of a policy adoption from 12 different countries. So writing 12 different countries and you'll say the specific thing you adopted, that is quantifiable. So think of anything you're calling a soft skill. If you're calling it, maybe, should I say, people skills, people you're managing, what did they achieve? If you say, I'm managing a group of 4 people who are like, should I say that they're training coordinators who work in the district, I'm their training lead. Now that you're managing these 4 people, what are they achieving? What are they doing because you're managing them? And what are they achieving, especially more than they would have if you are not managing them, other than the routines? Volunteer experience is work. If you are volunteering, please continue doing so. Don't feel, I know the people who do not dare volunteer, even if they are not in a particular position. If you can, you volunteer for that role, document everything that you do, and when you leave, please ask for a recommendation letter or a certificate of service or something to show that you are there. A volunteer job is a job because you learned some skills there. They trusted you with their resources. So when they ask for work experience, think of all sorts of experience, starting with attachment in college. When you do attachment, what are the skills you learned there? And please make sure it's documented somewhere in a letter or something, so that when you're applying for a job, even if you've never worked somewhere, you have that volunteer experience and you have the attachment experience. And please take free online courses also, so that you also show you've been improving your skill. Thanks, Joyce. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you. There's also still Ivy, the same person asks the difference between a testimonial and a resume. And then we also have Joseph says, thank you, Dr. Barbara. We miss you in HIV research. At which section of the CV can I put excerpts? Excerpts like, excerpts from the CV. So at which section do you put excerpts? So those are the other questions so far. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Your testimonials are all the documents that sort of certify the information that you have put in your application. So there are things like your educational certificates, your certificates from training courses, recommendation letters.
Unmute and ask. All right, Dr. is back now. Any other questions about your CV as we finish? And then I will have Dr. answer. Okay, it seems like we are all doing very well with all our CVs. Was this webinar useful? I'm going to request David to kindly share the link for the feedback. Please, everybody fill in that form. It's a Google form. I would like to know your experience. Today's training was very useful by Daktari. Daktari, karibu. I see she's still connecting. So please, everybody fill in that. It's a very brief Google form that will have you tell us your feedback for today's session, if you found it useful and what we can do more of next time. So Ivy says, forgive my curiosity. No problem, Ivy, you're very welcome. I've seen CVs that have hobbies section. Is that really relevant? That's a very good question. Kelvin is asking, my CV has responsibilities and achievements, but I think it's too loaded. Is that a problem? So I think just like Dr. said, the trick is to know how to be concise. Succinct. Succinct means concise and comprehensive. So all your editing skills come into play. All your professional writing skills come into play when you're doing your CV. It's not everything. You're going to be picking and choosing what's the most relevant thing for the CV. It looks like Daktari is back. Daktari, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, sorry, there was internet interruption in most places in Kenya, so don't worry. I'm glad you're back. So Ivy had asked the difference between testimonials and a resume. And I think you were in the middle of answering the other question when you got cut off. So please proceed.
All right. I was saying a testimonial is all the information that certifies what the information that you've written in your application is true. So that could include your education certificates, your training certificates, and recommendation letters, any other certificates of service that you have, which support your application, because your letter and your CV without those documents is not sort of testified alone. The next question on your resume is your short CV, which we've been talking about, which is suitable for job applications, which you have to keep customizing to suit specific job applications. The excerpts from the CV, I had put at the top of each slide an excerpt from role 1, role 2, role 3. I was trying to anonymize the CVs, anonymize the job positions. What should have been at the top there is the position, the dates, when the person was employed there, the position, the organization, and the specific roles. Then those are the list of the bullet points. So in your CV, that would be the bullet points under each job. So for each of those slides is one different job from that person. The first job she worked, the second job, the third job, fourth job, and the sixth job. I hope that is clear.
Thank you very much. Then Kelvin asks, my CV has responsibilities and achievements, but I think the CV is too loaded. Is that a problem? I think that goes to what you had said about being precise, being concise, and comprehensive at the same time. The idea is not to have so many pages on the CV, but just a few. So how can you ensure your CV that, like somebody like you who definitely has so many accomplishments, is maximum like 3 pages? Is that even possible? Dr. Maybe you can address that.
You need to trim all the information that may be very useful. I think from one of the articles I put on the links, this is the things you're very passionate about that you really liked and were very important to you, but unfortunately some may not be very relevant to the job. So you want your hiring manager or recruiter to look at the CV, and somebody said it's as good as when the person is reading your bullet points, the person is reading the advert. That's how close they should look. Of course, I'm not asking you to copy paste from the PD to the advert, but when they're looking for somebody who knows analysis, and you're very clearly mentioning, in the first line, this is how I've analyzed data, the second one, the third one. In the next job, you're talking about another skill of analysis. The next job, you're talking about another skill. Somebody says, I think this is the kind of person you may be interested, and at least you may move to the shortlist. And from there, you can negotiate your way, because the idea is to get from the long list of 100 or so applicants to around maybe 20 or 5 who they'll get to the interview. So you should, and the person will not have time to go through 20 pages, because if you've participated in shortlisting, sometimes they bring you a whole carton of printed applications, and you're supposed to go through all of them. Let's be realistic. How many people will go through each page of each CV? Others will read the cover letter and get rid of it and say, this doesn't look interesting. This person wrote only one line. Others will look through the CV and say, this person has never worked in a similar role, and get rid of it. So you're trying as much as possible to draw the person's interest, clearly focused on the content of the CV.
Thank you so much. I know you're also speaking because also on the side of the recruiter, I think we all have to think about the side of the recruiter. We all just apply, from the side of the applicants. And on the different sections, Ivy asks whether the hobbies is relevant. And then Risi asks, what if you have different roles, not under one job description? Nowadays, we all have side hustles and side hustles. We're not just doing one career. And this is a very good question from Risi. How do you handle this thing that, do you highlight things independently? Do you get 2 tracks to highlight your 2 main things that you do, 2 or 3 main things that you do? And then Risi also asked, where do you put additional courses you've done? Like now, a lot of us have been doing online courses, professional development, short courses. Where do you put them in your CV, And that will be all for today, the question.
Okay, I'll start with the additional courses. Where you have a list of professional development courses, you list all the courses that you've attended there. I think one of these international organizations asks only for the past 5 years. They say the others are not relevant. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who are passionate about something I did in the past. So I opted to leave some, 1 or 2 in the past, because for me, I thought it was an important role to leave. So courses in the past 5 years under professional accomplishments. But key to mention is remove the courses that are not relevant to the job. I know sometimes it's quantity. We want to look like we have gone to 21 courses, yeah, which is okay. It's good to do as many courses as you want, but maybe only 2 are relevant to the job, and those are the most recent. So I did a number of HIV training courses, a number of malaria, that's what CMEs on cardiac care. Now try and imagine I'm applying for an M&D job. Do I want to put, ART management in my M&D job and it's so old? Unless it's a very recent one and it's relevant to M&D management. M&D, I should not really put it there. The side hustles. Let's go back to the key point. Try and remember we're talking about content. And there is some side hustle that is relevant to the application you're making. But very careful, because the person hiring you may or may not be interested in you doing side hustles, especially when it looks like these side hustles take like so much of your time that you may not be concentrating in your current roles. So think a little bit carefully when you are applying. If you think it's relevant to the job you're applying for, especially if it's something that will not take up so much time, because let's say I'm running a very successful business in, should I call it what? I have a confectionery. I sell all these nice things, and it's very big and all that, and I'm applying for a job and everybody knows it and how busy it is. And how do I expect my hiring manager to think, how will she manage her side hustle and the job she's applying for? But there are some which, when you're talking about things like volunteer engagement or things that may not take so much of your time, that are useful and are related to the career. If I'm doing training on the side and I'm being hired in a position where I need to train people, and it's not a full-time training thing, it may be something that may be useful to say I have training skills that were not really acquired in my current position. And you can have them as other professional engagements if you wish to put them. I think we'll do also consultancies. If they're relevant, because those are part-time things, you can also add. Over to you, Joyce.
All right, thank you so much. Kelvin says, from what I'm getting, we should update our CV depending on the position we are applying for. Right. I agree totally, Kelvin. And I think that's what Dr. is saying. Some of us like to have a generic CV and you send it to everywhere you are applying. I don't think that's what Dr. is saying. We need to customize for every particular position. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Today's meeting was very well attended. Redemptor Atieno, I see your hand is up. Please take less than a minute. Kindly proceed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barbara, for such an insightful presentation as always. Could you kindly speak to an academic CV? If, for example, I want to venture into lecturing and I don't have experience in that area, my CV is more work related. How do I craft my CV into an academic CV so that I can get into the shortlist or maybe interest the academic field? Thank you.
Thanks, Redemptor. The academic CV template, which you will all get at the end of the call, is more tailored to, should I say, somebody in research trying to get into fellowships and maybe trying to get into sort of academic positions. Transitioning from a career of totally an academic career to an academic career, you may have to think of transferable, relatable skills. If you've been doing training, wherever you've been working, that speaks to some experience in teaching. What other things that have you been doing that you are going to do in the current job you're applying for in academia? Like you want to be a lecturer, and maybe I want to go teach research methods, and I've been working in research. So somebody may take the fact that I've been working in research and I have training skills and may be able to serve as a lecturer, although I've not worked as a lecturer before. Other things, people who start, they're much younger, start off as tutorial fellows when they graduate. They start off working in that role, or some are study assistants for lecturers, and so they easily move into lecturing because they're sort of already in academia. So think of the transferable skills that you have that may be suitable in the department where you want to apply for the job. And it may be useful to actually speak from somebody who's there, somebody who's working in that department, and say, I'm thinking of applying to come and teach here, or to teach in a similar department. What would be useful? These are my qualifications. Would I fit? Would it be useful to come here, or it's not useful? Over to you, Joyce.
All right, thank you so much. So I really appreciate all of you for coming today. And I see some people here are not yet members of Journal Club. Kindly see the form, the survey form that David will post just now, and fill it in so that you can find out more information about Journal Club. It does have a link there that gives you more information. And we really appreciate you, Daktari. I see you are saying you'll share a template to accompany all applications, which is great, so that we can customize ours with your example. I really, really appreciate. So everybody have a wonderful afternoon, and let's keep talking. If you are in the Journal Club, let's talk in the WhatsApp group. Kwaherini. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everybody. Bye.